I just sat back in my chair and I started thinking what it is like to call that God Father. Abba. That is my dad. Once upon a time, a young princess became angry with her father, the king. She had countless servants. Why should she pick up after herself? I know what I'll do, the young princess said to herself. I'll teach everyone a lesson. I'll run away from home, and I'll leave my room strode just like this. She searched through her dresser drawers for common-looking clothing, pitching what she did not want on the floor. Now, where are my dress-ups? She muttered. She found them and disguised herself as a common peasant girl. She slipped quietly out the secret door. She knew her father, the king, would not discover her missing for several hours because he had important business at the World Ambassador's headquarters. Soon she met a group of children playing stickball on a narrow back street. She thought to herself, they have much more fun than I. I'm weary of being a princess. I shall be like them. Soon the children asked her to play, and happily she did. She caught on quickly to their far more fun ways. She elbowed whoever got in her way, just like them. She cursed when she missed the ball, just like them. And when she fell strategically in the mud, just like them. Suddenly, a young girl all the others seemed to know appeared at the corner and called to them, almost out of breath, "Come on, hurry! Something really big is happening on Main Street." Sticks flew, and all the children ran. The princess was quite proud of herself, for she could run too, just like them. She thought, however, it was surely time to eat. Thankfully, even a princess could still run while her stomach growled. Soon they joined a crowd of people, oohing and aahing over what they could see. The children tried to push their way through the throng, but the fine-dressed men and women said, "Get away, you filthy children." Incensed, the little girl thought, "I am no filthy child. I am a princess." Or, she continued, "at least I was. Now I'm going to be just like them." Therefore, she elbowed right back and made sure to get mud on their uptown shirts and skirts. "It's no use," one of the boys said. "We can't get to the front. Hurry, let's climb the tree." They scurried up the tree like a dozen monkeys. The young princess followed behind them, reassuring herself, "I can climb this tree. I'm just like them." As she pulled her way to the second branch, a small limb caught the threads of her sweater, and she fell to the ground with a thump. The adults peered at her only with disgust. The children in the tree yelled at her, "Get up here quick, here it comes." She didn't even know what it was, nor at this moment did she care. She wanted to cry, but she wouldn't dare. They certainly wouldn't cry, and she was just like them, so she cursed instead. Finally, she made her way up the tree and settled insecurely on a large branch. "What are we looking at anyway?" The other kids yelled, "It's the king, you imbecile! Don't you know a king when you see one?" And she pulled herself up by the next branch and stretched to see all the fuss. An envoy of dignitaries stood beside the limousine. The door opened, and there he was. So tall, so dignified, so royal. "Hail His Majesty the King," the subjects proclaimed. "Long live the king!" The dignitaries dropped to one knee. The throngs bowed before him. Only he was left standing. One of the boys said, "We have a perfect shot. Let's throw our best spitballs right at his face." Horror struck the heart of the young princess. "You can't do that." "And why not?" they yelled. "Because he's the king." "So what?" they reviled, and they began to spit. "Stop! That's my dad! Stop it!" The tears she held back for a few minutes earlier sprang forth like a fountain. "Sure, like our dad is Abraham," they mocked. "I mean it! The king is my father!" And they laughed all the harder. "Look at you," they sneered. "You are just like us. You don't even have a dad." She saw her father wipe something from his face. He looked up into the tree as the children yelled curses at him. Indescribable shame filled her heart. She was sure he saw her, but maybe he didn't recognize her. She jumped out of the tree and began to run. As she did, the kids started to throw spitballs at her. And she ran all the way back to the palace, sobbing every step of the way. It seemed to take her forever. She suddenly became aware of her stinging elbows and knees and saw that she was skinned and bleeding from the fall. She cried even harder, suddenly feeling very young and very small. When the princess finally reached the palace, she found to her horror that the secret door was locked. She ran to all the other doors. Each one was shut tightly. "Oh no," she cried. "This is no longer my home. I am locked out and I have no place to go." Only one door remained, the front door. But she couldn't possibly use the front door. Everyone would know. Look at her anyway. She looked just like them. She waited and waited, trying to think of something to do about her terrible condition. Finally, she was too sore and hungry and weary to fight her only solution. She dragged herself to the front door, filthy, clothes torn and ruined, and her dirty face streaked with tears. She dropped her head for just a moment, trying to think of any other way. There was none. She lifted her hand and knocked just once, timidly and shamefully. Before she could muster the courage and knock louder a second time, the door creaked open. As her head hung in shame, she could only see his feet. It was him, all right. Her dad, the king. She dropped in a heap and cried, "I'm sorry, Daddy. I am so ashamed. Look at what I've done." He knelt down beside her and pulled her into his strong arms. "Come here, my princess." "No, Dad, I'm not a princess. I'm just like them." "Ah, my child, you may have acted like them, but you are not one of them. You are mine. But, child, you will never be happy until you accept both the privilege and responsibility of belonging to me." That night he tucked her into her soft bed. She was bathed and her wounds dressed. He had helped her clean her room and feel like a princess once more. He kissed her good night, and as he walked out of the room, the night light dimly illuminated his royal robe. It was smudged with dirt from holding her in her sad estate. Her eyes filled with tears once more. "Never again," she whispered. "Look what I've done to the king's robe." He turned, sensing her broken heart, and said, "Yes, my child, there will be other times. But I will open the door every time you knock, and I will love you ever again until the end."